Roll Tide, everybody, and welcome to the Bama Tailgate Show. We're going to get into some pretty interesting topics today, so make sure you're a part of the show. We're going to talk about the new world of college football. What does it mean for high school recruiting? What does it mean for building a roster around the transfer portal? I want to talk about the college football playoff situation. They're not adding any teams. Blows my mind. And then everyone's excited about having Charles Bediako back. I'm going to get Chris's thoughts on whether he'll stay on the team or if this is, as I called it before, Teen Wolf. And I bet Chris saw that movie. All right, let's go. All right, we're brought to you by Pearl River Resort over there in Philadelphia, Mississippi. It's that time right now to make your reservations for Dancing Rabbit Golf Course. It's the Augusta you can play, the Azaleas, the Oaks, two amazing golf courses. You got Philip M. Steakhouse, you got the Timeout Sports Lounge, you got Silver Star and Golden Moon Casino, and they bring you this show every single day. We appreciate those guys. Hour and a half, maybe a little longer from Tuscaloosa, 2 and change from Birmingham. But everything you would get in Vegas right there in Philadelphia, Mississippi. Good to see Chris Lowe. Chris, everyone's talking about Indiana, and it feels like Indiana has changed the way that roster construction is going to be done in college football.
It looks that way, and when you win and win as convincingly as they did this year, and by that I mean that they beat everybody and everything that was thrown at them, Mick. I mean, they beat Oregon twice, a really talented football team. They beat Ohio State, who I thought was the most talented team, and I think the draft will probably bear that out over the next 2 years. They beat Alabama soundly, and then they beat a Miami team that's loaded up front on defense in the national championship game. And to me, what they did, and I think everyone's going to try to copy this, is instead of throwing a ton of money at 2 or 3 players, and they spent money. I think that's the biggest misconception. It's not like they spent, there were 25 teams in the country who spent more money than Indiana, but they spent it wisely. And you look at sort of who they spent it on. They spent it on players that they knew, players that they'd done a lot of research on. A lot of those guys came with Signetti from JMU. They did a lot of homework. Their personnel staff, to me, they're the unsung heroes of this team. They've got a group of guys in that office that Signetti trusts. Now, Signetti's he's the guy that's got to green light everybody, but they do a ton of homework, and they talk to guidance counselors and high school coaches and college coaches, guys who coached them at other schools. And I'm not saying everybody else doesn't do that. And then they go find fits. Signetti says, hey, we need this at safety. We need this as an edge rusher. And we don't want anybody who's going to screw up any kind of the chemistry in the locker room. So don't bring me anybody that's had an issue. A great example of that is Stephen Daly, who got hurt and didn't play in the playoff. He was on a Kent State team that went 0-12 in 2024, but was a great player, a productive player, stayed the course and never caused any problem. I mean, think about being on an 0-12 team, how hard that is. And everybody they talked to about this kid was positive. Well, they bring him in. He has got 19 tackles for loss and is one of the best edge rushers in the Big Ten. So that's what they did better than anybody, is they went out and found people who fit. They fit the locker room. They fit the culture. They fit the positions that they needed. And they were really good in their evaluations. I think the evaluation part of it, and it's been like this in the high school ranks forever, but now when you've got more tape to watch, Mick, guys playing against other college players, guys who've been in a college strength and conditioning program for a couple of years, you've got more to work with. And being able to evaluate those guys who can come in and maybe up their game and be a part of what you're doing, I think that part of it is as important as it's ever been.
Yeah. Look, I mean, that's what Curt Signetti said. He was like, I evaluated every single guy that we brought in on the portal, right? They went older, veteran guys, didn't really matter as much what success they had somewhere else, but what they represented fundamentally to the team. and the experience that they brought in, that worked. Mike Johnson was at Alabama when Curt Cignetti was a coach, and he said that it was the oddest fit that he's ever seen when he was coaching wide receivers. And he said that Cignetti's probably benefiting from the fact that it's not about going into mom and dad's kitchen anymore and sitting down with a family. You deal with an agent, you give them money, they come and play, and that may fit his personality a little bit more. And that's not a knock on his coaching ability, but he's an odd cat. I mean, he's the best coach. Let me tell you this. There's a lot of people watching this show right now that would take him in a heartbeat to come to Alabama. With that said, right? But Saban's an odd guy, but successful guys. And you can tell there's a lot of similarities.
Well, he's got that drill sergeant type mentality to him. He's a no-nonsense guy. But, I mean, you're right, Mick. There are a lot of those guys in college football. I mean, it's not – if it works, it works. If it doesn't, well, then the guy's a blowhard, right? And he's won. And he's worked for good coaches. He's worked with good people. And he'll tell you that his time with Nick – remember, he was with Nick when Nick was just starting to build it. They had won a national championships in 07. And then they had a great year in 08. And then 09, they won it all. They break through. And remember, Cignetti was the recruiting coordinator on that team. Now, in reality – Nick Saban was recruiting coordinator. He also was the defensive coordinator. But he understood, I think, working with Nick, what it took, the kinds of, the model at each position, how to run a program. He'll tell you
right.
That. I think the fact that he was an assistant for 26 years, I think that's the thing probably we all have overlooked. Fans, media. Curt had been an assistant coach for 26 years before he ever went to be a head coach. I mean, he had a good base. A diversity of coaches he worked under. He took a chance on himself. He goes to Indiana University of Pennsylvania. I mean, does anybody even know where that is?
Yeah,
when he
not
told
many.
Nick going, he said Nick looked at him like he had 5 heads when he told him he was going to be the head coach there. And Nick's like, "Are you sure? Is that what you want to do?" And he did, which tells you, and Nick said, tells you the kind of belief he had in himself. And the rest is history. Listen, I don't think we are all guilty in the media, okay, of overreacting. And I don't think this means that, well, you can go out and do a half-assed job of recruiting in the high school ranks and just bring in 20 transfers and you're going to go win the national championship or you're going to play for it. You still better build your team around good kids out of high school. And then you got to supplement that with experience at key positions, and I think the quarterback piece of it is as important as any. We're starting to find out more and more every year that if you're going to win at the highest level, you got to have that model of a Gunnar Stockton, a Ty Simpson, or a Mendoza, or a guy that's played elsewhere and played and been a starter for several years at school and then transfers in. That I don't know that winning with a first-year starter at quarterback who's only been on campus a year or two. And maybe I'm wrong, Mick, but I don't know that that's a recipe for success going forward.
Well, converting this to Alabama, it's, I can't say it any other way. Bama got their butts whooped in the transfer portal. They lost too many interior linemen. Now, I know they brought a lot of linemen in, but when they do like the top 25 of transfer portal, LSU is number 1. Bama's like, I don't know, 20th or something. You can't lose Quay Russaw and James Smith to Ohio State. You lose Isaiah Horton, Cole Adams. I mean, that's a guy like I hate losing him to Vandy. Micah DuBose to Vandy. I mean, there's a big list, and this is what a lot of teams are dealing with. They bring in some guys as well, but it doesn't feel like Indiana, who ended up, second in the portal, according to the rankings. And I believe those rankings, honestly. I think it's easier to rank transfer portal than it is high school guys. I heard Coach Saban saying, look at the guys evaluating these stars on these players. And I think that's unfair to guys like Andrew Bone and recruiting guys that have been watching football for a long time that go to these games. But at the same time, I get it too. Curt Cignetti and Nick Saban probably look at film a lot differently than say we do, right? But it's hard to figure out the transition, right? It's a lot easier when you got college guys.
Yeah, it is. There's more real tape to look at. You're watching kids go against other college kids, better competition. Now, what Nick failed to mention, and the dirty little secret in ranking high school recruits is a lot of the information that guys get when they're ranking 4 and 5 stars in classes are coming from college coaches who are watching these kids. And I'll be the first to admit, I don't know a fraction of what every coach out there, certainly Nick Saban, does in what we're looking at when we're trying to rate a prospect in high school, when you're trying to project. What's a kid at receiver who weighs 168 pounds going to be 2 or 3 years from then once he gets in the weight room and once he's catching the football with guys 15 pounds heavier than him trying to knock his head off? Those are the things you don't always know. But I think Nick, I know he won 6 national titles at Alabama. And so if you go, 4 recruiting classes for each title, 4 recruiting leading into each championship season, of those 24, 17 were ranked number 1 nationally in the country. So it means something to be up there in the rankings. It doesn't guarantee anything, though. And that's the part with Nick. I agree 1,000% with him. Just because you recruit in the top 5 or top 10, that doesn't guarantee you anything. But I do think even with the portal, more times than not, Mick, you're going to have to recruit at a high level, and you're not going to find a lot of schools who recruit outside the top 10, 15 consistently in the high school cycles that win national championships. I think Indiana still, with their model, will be the exception as opposed to the rule. Because I think their 4 classes, I did a piece for On 3 on this, were 63, 53, 51. I think 29 was the highest in the 4 years leading up to their title. But again, we're in a new era right now with Iowa and portal. I don't think we're going to know some of the answers to these questions fully until 2, 3, 4 years from now.
I look at it like this, Chris. I just don't know the value of high school recruits anymore. And I heard Urban Meyer talking about that, and I totally agree with him. Like, why waste all this money and time building these guys up? James Smith, Quay Russaw, let them go somewhere else and do that. Go somewhere else if you're going to make your money. Until they have a posting system where you get compensated for these guys basically using you to get their next contract, then you'd be better off just looking at everybody else's roster and spending your money like pickpocketing your competition. Bama's backpedaling right now, and that's just the truth. When Coach Saban was there, Bama was always ahead of the curve. We're not ahead of the curve anymore. We're backpedaling. We're developing players for other programs, and until they get this figured out, Indiana's on the other side of this, which is crazy to think that Indiana's on the other side of anything when it comes to football. But what I saw them do this year reminded me of Alabama football, watching them just tacticians of the game, man, not miss tackles, run the football. Like the coaching was the kind of coaching that you have to have. No ice cream truck showing up at your practice. You know what? Either get it or get off the team. Like, it was absolutely breathtaking what Indiana did. For Alabama to be the Alabama that we're expecting, they're going to have to get back ahead of the curve, and it just isn't happening right now to me. That's my opinion.
I bet you these same conversations are being had in meeting rooms, at country clubs, among high-polluting donors, at schools that are used to winning at a high level like Alabama. Wait a minute. How do we suddenly get left in Indiana's dust? And there's going to be a lot of self-scouting, a lot of sort of soul searching and trying to figure out, what do we need to do differently? How do we need to adapt, to your point? How do we need to evolve? I agree 1,000% with you, Mick, that if you're going to pay a high school kid millions of dollars out of high school, I don't know that that's the smartest way to go now. I think you need to step back and reevaluate that philosophy. I don't know that that works anymore. I still think, though, the backbone of your program has to be high school classes that are solid and good. To me, it's like the NFL. The teams that win the most in the NFL still probably draft the best.
Oh, yeah. I agree with that.
And they're smart and they're savvy in what free agents they bring in, guys at key spots. I mean, what are the key spots? Quarterback, edge rusher, someone that can protect your quarterback, right? And I think corner. I think you have corner in there too, on the backside of your defense. And to me, that's where you spend your dollars, and you make up in between the cracks. You look at all those linebackers that Indiana had this year. None of those guys were high dollar players. Elijah Surratt, the receiver who caught, I think, 28 touchdowns in the last 2 years, he came as part of those 13 guys with JMU. He never made a cent in NIL until he got to Indiana. He got the stipend. I think he still got $250 a month. He went to St. Francis, a Division II school.
I know St. Francis,
out of high school. Yeah, that's your neck of the woods. So, but somebody missed on him. He was 6'2", 200 pounds.
Or he developed, Chris. He could have developed too. Maybe you get better, right?
They developed him. And to me, it's still about
like Mbakwe's the exact opposite. Guys getting paid all this money. They don't even know where he's at. This guy might have been hungry, might have been a dog.
Yeah, and I don't care if they come out of high school or they come from another college, you still got to develop football players. You got to coach them. Mm-hmm. It still matters a ton. You got to get them to your campus.
Yeah.
But it still, I think, matters more what you do with them once you get them than just getting them. And I think this was a master class this year and really last year by Cignetti. As for Alabama, I look at what they did in the portal, and I agree. I thought they would have done more. They brought in a lot of offensive linemen, 6 or 7. They needed to retool in the offensive line. They need to be better there. They need to run. I mean, these are all things we know, and I promise you Kalen DeBoer knows it. They've got to run the football better. They've got to be able to bloody people's noses better, which when they were at their best, they did that. They could run the ball in the red zone. They could run the ball on conversion downs, 3rd and short. They could run the ball coming off the goal line. They could run the ball to finish ball games. I think of Alabama this year, the time they did it that was most glaring was against Georgia at Georgia when they ran the ball to finish that football game.
Yeah.
And when I think of Alabama, that's what I think about is, you know what? We're winning. We're going to bloody your nose. We're going to finish the football game. We're going to keep it, and you're not getting it back. And they didn't do that a whole lot this year. Mm-mm. There was a lot of Ty Simpson running for his life. Sometimes he was off script, maybe when he shouldn't have been off script. And they made some critical mistakes, as you pointed out. Didn't tackle well. All the things that I think you can fix. It's not like you can't fix some of those things, right. But they need to play cleaner football. They need to play more complete football, and certainly they need to be more consistent because I would say, if you're looking at it through the lens of an Alabama football fan, look from you guys and the guys that pay a lot of money, the most frustrating thing about this team this year was you watched them at times, you said, okay, this has a chance to be a championship caliber football team. They did the things you need them to do. And then there are other times you watch them that you're like, whoa, this is not, this
what's
isn't
going
good
on
playing
here?
Football.
What's going not on? Very consistent.
And that, if I stand back 1,000 feet away and look at Alabama, that would be my biggest criticism of the program is to figure out a way to be more consistent and do some of these things, tackle better, run the football, not have penalties that you got to do if you're going to win at a high level.
Guys, we're brought to you by AveD. Join Mick Nation. There's our QR code right there, and that's where we gave you an opportunity to win some cash during Alabama games, picking games. Also, that's where we'll have all of our swag, including some hats. Look at this. Not to take off a great hat here from my man David, but I'm going to put this one on. You guys can win one of these. You can win one of these right here. We got swag that we give away as well. We want you to be a part of our what we do here, Mick Nation, AveD. The other thing is I want to tell you this, is that we have hooked Jake Coker up with a brand new brand that he loves, and that's Bedratty. You talk about great golf gear, Bedratty, Bama Tailgate 30, Peruvian Pima cotton, man. It is the best. These shirts are soft. They're comfortable. They look good. When you look good, you play good. That's how golf is. Well, maybe not, but at least look good if you're driving the cart like me.
Doesn't work for me. Doesn't work for me, Mick.
No, but you'll look good. Guys, try it. I'm telling you, it's really, really top of the line stuff. And they've got, Alabama A's on all that. And you'll be really sweet looking out there on the golf course or at your next tailgate party or at the office. Again, that's Bama Tailgate 30 at Beach-Ratty. All right, Chris, let's change gears. This was a surprise to me. And the reason it's a surprise to me is that I'm ready to open the playoff up to like 64 teams. I mean, I think we've watered it down enough now where it's like, hey, put them in. Miami might not have even made the playoff if Virginia beats Duke last year or this year, whatever. And they should have been in there. Look, they're one of the best teams. I underestimated the ACC, to be perfectly honest with you, and I overestimated the SEC, right? That's what the playoff's all about. I say get as many teams in as you can now. The fact that we've already gotten it to 12, but I thought we were going to 16. That's not happening.
No, you got two big old bulls that are butting heads right now. The two bulls that control everything, and that's the SEC, the Big Ten. The SEC does not want to go to 24. The Big Ten doesn't want to go to 16. And if you're the Big Ten, as someone explained to me in Miami, and as I spent that week in Miami, it became increasingly clear that there was not going to be any expansion. I would have told you a month ago I thought there would be expansion. I thought probably we were looking at 16. But the Big Ten says, you know what? No way. That all that does is it helps the SEC. And if you look at this year as an example, Mick, then they're probably right? Because play it out this year. If you go to 16 this year, who gets in? Texas gets in.
Right.
Vandy gets in.
Yep.
Notre Dame gets in. And probably the fourth would have been BYU. So that doesn't help the Big Ten at all. Who does it help? It helps the SEC. So if you're looking at it through the Big Ten's eyes, we're not going to 16. We'll go to 24 and we'll factor in playing weekends and we'll cut the season down. We'll start earlier. I don't think the SEC has any inclination to want to do that. So in talking to SEC people on the game was played on Monday, on Saturday in Miami, they told me then, you know what? There's no way we're going to 24. We'll stay at 12. And they couldn't agree, and here we are. For another year, we're going to play 12. This is the third year of 12 teams. Have we had enough time to truly assess 12 teams? I don't know. We could sit here and argue that all day. Here's the thing I don't like about what they're going to do. Now, we could sit here all day and say, well, the Power Four conference champions shouldn't automatically get in, because if it had been the case this year, then Duke with 5 losses would have gotten in. But you also wouldn't have gotten James Madison in.
Yep.
But the thing I think is the most asinine is there shouldn't be any qualification or any caveat that any team get in just because they're in the top 12. And Notre Dame is the only one that has that caveat.
Yeah, right.
If they finish in the top 12, they're in. And their schedule's not that hard next year.
No.
So, hey, kudos to their leadership for getting that as a part of it. I don't know if when that was voted in, or I shouldn't say voted in, when that was put in, if most people thought, well, okay, we're going to go to 16. It's going to expand. Well, if you're the SEC right now, and if you pump Truth Serum and Greg Sankey, you just went to 9 league games. You voted that in this past August. So for the first time ever, everybody in the league's going to play 9 games. On its face, I think that's right. I like that. I like the fact that we see more games. But if you're looking at it from an SEC perspective, now with still just 12 teams, you're going to have more teams in the league with 3 and 4 losses. How's that going to play come selection time? And I'll bet you $1 million, no one's going to ever say it, that the SEC in deciding to do this, because the coaches didn't want any part of 9 games.
Right.
But the league saying, all right, we'll go to 9. I'll bet you $1 million, okay? Basically a third of what you make in a year, Mick, that that the SEC was absolutely sure or confident they were going to 16 games or teams this year in the playoff when they made that decision.
Right.
And guess what?
Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah, bad decision. I'm with you. I think like Mike Leach said, and I'm heading to Key West next week, and I'll go to Captain Tony's just like him, and I'll sit at his bar stool, and I'll have a cold beer, and I'll talk about college football with everybody in there from all over the world. And he's like, they have a big tournament in high school, they have one in the NFL, pro football. Every league has one. Why not us? And it's like the more teams that they get in at this point, the better it's going to be, because the bowls stink. They just stink. Nobody cares about them anymore. It used to be such a big deal. I went to all these bowl games. I went to every one of them. The Cotton Bowl, the Rose Bowl, the Gator Bowl, the Peach Bowl. I mean, you name it, I've been to it. It used to be a big deal. Now you can't even get players to show up. If we could turn those into playoff games, all of a sudden everybody's excited about it. It means something. This is the world that we live in now, and college football needs to get with it. There has to be something on the line in these games. I mean, it's just the bottom line, right? And the only way to save the bowls, Chris, is to make them worth something.
Yeah.
Meaningful.
My concern is this, and I agree with you. The bowls right now are, I call them basically the first scrimmage of the spring for teams, is what they've become.
That's true.
Most guys don't play. At least you get to see some younger players. So it's almost like a glimpse of what spring practice is going to look like. My concern with 24 is I never want to get to a point in college football where by the first week of November, you're in and you start resting players. It becomes like we see sometimes in the NFL, we see in Major League Baseball, because football is so different than basketball. It just is. Guys get hurt. It's a much more fleeting sport that if we get to, I don't know, when is the Georgia Florida game played? That's usually played the last Saturday of October or whatever. Yeah. Or a key game the first week in November, and Bama knows or Ohio State knows, hey, we're in, okay, and we got a high seed. I'm not going to play my quarterback. My quarterback's ankle's been gimpy. I'm not going to play him the next week or two. And that those games don't matter. Now, I'm not saying there's not a way to structure it where we can do that. I mean, I like, if we're going to go to 24 teams, I like having, because you're probably, the first thing that's going to go away is your conference championship games. But that's not the worst thing in the world. I love the SEC title game. I've always thought it was one of the best every year, one of the best 2 or 3 games in college football. But if we can create, Mick, a weekend where there's a play-in sort of playing into the playoff, 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5, that makes that championship weekend type, really attractive. And that would be fun. I don't want games that are in the 8th and 9th and 10th week of the season, or 11th or whatever, to all of a sudden become not that important, and you can rest players. And it's almost like, well, if we lose this, so what? We're still going to be a top 4 seed in the playoff. How do we do that? Yeah, how do we do that? And maybe people a lot smarter than me can figure that out. I'll say this: they hadn't figured out squat yet. All they do is have meetings to decide when they're going to have other meetings to decide what the format's going to be. And I don't know about you, Mick. I'm getting tired of that. I think. Yeah. Listen, and I'm not one of these who says I'm going to quit watching. I love it. The product is awesome. The ratings suggest that more people are watching college football than ever before. And I'm one of those. I mean, I'll go watch every Saturday, but I am getting tired of the people on the outside screwing it up and not trying to, and not being able to figure out, what's the best format. And let's decide on a format, right? And let's go with it.
Let's do it. Hey guys, my man JK made this for me. This is part of his Brown Shed Glass studio. And he's a big fan of the show. And what you can't see right here is like, this is kind of like a pearl inside the Steely. And with Bob Weir passing away, I know a lot of you guys that aren't even Dead fans are kind of hearing a lot about the Grateful Dead. But he can make anything with the glass. And like I said, he's a great guy. He was a professor at Alabama, and he's a fan of the show. 205-292-6759 is the number right on the bottom of the screen. But you got stuff he can make. like that, or he's got stuff that's already made. And one of those is like a really cool Alabama logo. And this stuff will last forever. He's always like, your grandkids are going to have this. And if you felt this, the quality of the glass, it really does. It blows you away how thick it is, how good. This glass was actually from the 60s and 70s, he was telling me. So appreciate you. And I'll leave that up on the screen for you guys as we kind of hit our final topic on today's show. All right. Who knows how long Charles Bediako is going to be on the Bama basketball team? But Nate Oates has been like, look, they let these guys play professionally overseas, and then they get to come to college and play. That's what happened with Bediako, who played for minor league basketball. Now he's back at Alabama. There's an injunction letting him play against Tennessee on Saturday. And it's interesting, Chris. I mean, like, I honestly, in a way, I can't believe it. But then in a way, it's like, hey, the way that college basketball and college sports are these days. What's your take on this?
Well, it's a little bit of a microcosm of sort of where we are right now about who's eligible, who's not. I think maybe the most important weapon that any school or athletic program has is being able to get a court case adjudicated in your state. I mean, think about it. Trinidad Chambliss right now, he's suing the NCAA. Well, it's being tried in the state of Mississippi from a judge who went to law school at Ole Miss. Same with this situation in Alabama. The guy that's supposed to hear it, preside over the hearing, is a donor, an Alabama donor. Tennessee, when the NCAA was going to.
Are you saying justice isn't blind, Chris?
Depends on what state you're in. Hey, Tennessee, when the NCAA was poking around and it was investigating the Vols over the whole Iamaleava situation, the state attorney general came in and said, no, can't do that. NCAA, you can't enforce these NIL rules. I mean, you go on and on and on. And
right.
it really becomes about billable hours and courtrooms and your legal teams. And listen, I get it. It's a different world now, and teams are always looking for an advantage. Coaches are hypocritical. They start pointing the finger at each other, and who's to say who would do what. And I'm not saying that, I know a lot of coaches already come out and said, hey, if you sign a pro contract, it used to be, and this is true. I saw Rick Barnes said this. If you sign a contract with a professional team, your college eligibility is gone. And that it was pretty cut and dry, right? But now with NIL and the ability, you haven't lost potential because Charles hasn't played since 23. Is that right? Was the last time he played college basketball? You go on, there's pictures of him in a Spurs uniform in summer league. You go online and find that. So, hey, they open up Pandora's box. Here we are. I know some people say, well, Nate Oates should take the high ground and not play him. Listen, if there's a lot of pressure to win. There's a lot of pressure to win. These guys are making so much money at the highest level. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but if it's within the rules of what the rules are, who the hell can figure out what they are and what they aren't, I think a lot of coaches are going to do that. We'll see how this all plays out, how long he'll play, how many games he'll play. I think the reason he's able to play now is he's been awarded a temporary restraining order, and can he get that permanent injunction to play the rest of the year? I don't think we find that out until next week, right? The hearing is next week.
Yeah.
So
fingers crossed, Alabama.
Right. In the meantime, they play Tennessee and Florida. The Tide do.
Yeah.
I saw what Golden came out and said. We'll beat him regardless of whether he plays or not. I sort of like that. Really, I like to hear a coach come out and say, "Listen, nobody really knows. We're playing in the gray area right now. All of us play your best guys. We'll play our best guys, and we'll beat your ass anyway."
Yeah.
There's there's something to be said for that. Now, if they lose, if Alabama beats Florida's butt, then maybe Golden will think differently. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Chris, always great talking to you, brother. Have
a
great weekend, and we'll do it again next week.
All right. See you, Mick.
Hey,
Take care,
guys,
bud.
You too. Hey, don't forget that we're brought to you by New Life Art, Crispy Screen. You know all about the Crispy Screen, but let Shank tell you about it.
In some places, football is a sport. In Alabama, it's a fine art. New Life Art is now accepting pre-orders for Daniel A. Moore's next Crimson Classic, The Crispy Screen, guys. What a name to commemorate the Fat Boys. This masterwork commemorates the screen pass to Caden Proctor that outsmarted Kirby and the Georgia defense. Proctor's catch and bulldog dozing run set up Ty Simpson's 3-yard touchdown just before the half, which was a big score for us, guys. Visit DanielMooreArt.com to see the artist's preliminary sketch and take advantage of a special pre-publication pricing for the crispy screen. Go ahead, get into that. Go get you one of those Caden Proctor prints. I'm super excited to get mine in because he's living a dream of all the Fat Boys. And go look up that crispy screen and get you one, guys.
So, Jake, let's break down some game tape.
Hold on, fellas. Steve,
Hey, Jake, you ready to rock?
let's roll, brother.
Guess we're calling plays at Pearl River Resort. Wow, Jake's first throw scores.
And Steve's got the crowd pumped. Man, they're absolutely rolling.
'Cause I don't have to be me till Monday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I ain't gonna face reality.
I tell you, Jake's still got game.
While Steve keeps rocking aces.
Boom, Jake seals it with a pick.
Come call your own plays.
At Pearl River Resort, let's roll.
I don't have to be me till Monday,